Hey there and welcome back to another Win or Lose video. And today we're going to be talking about episode 4, Pickle, which is a companion episode to episode 3, Raspberry, which we talked about just yesterday. In that episode, our lead character, Rochelle, is introduced as a child who's being forced to grow up before her time. Saddled with an irresponsible mother, she's the one who's had to manage finances and finds herself emotionally cut off from her mum and no longer really able to rely on her and depend on her as she continues to delve more and more into social media addiction as she tries to break into the mumfluencer social media space. This all culminates with Rochelle trying to earn $600 extra so she can continue to pay the increasingly expensive team dues that are coming up. So she starts a paid homework / test cheat service and then goes as far as to try to sell some shoes to some shady teens for the final $200, only for it all to go wrong and for her to be stranded at night somewhere she doesn't know without her glasses and without her phone. So she uses a payphone to call for help, which is where the episode ends. Suffice to say, this episode leaves you feeling that Vanessa sucks as a parent, you have little sympathy for her character, and you think she's just the worst. You don't think she's a bad person, just stupid and neglectful. Then you get this episode, and the narrative somewhat shifts on its head. You get a lot more nuance to the situation, and can really start to empathize with her character. Really, this is just some of the best writing Pixar's done in years. Such a shame they're not going to be making more stuff like this from now on, because it's so good. So we start off the episode at Vanessa's job in the supermarket, where everything's grey and monotonous. Just a miserable and boring work environment. Then Vanessa bursts onto the scene, and the world comes back into colour. You know when you come into a business and there's that one person who's super excited and hyped no matter what? Whether they're cleaning or working the counter or even just the drive-thru? The type of person that gets the customer happy and excited and leaves them in a good mood. That's her. So instantly, it's a difference in how you perceive her. She seems invested in her job, invested in her daughter and the playoff game. It seems like a stark contrast to Raspberry, where it felt like she cared more about making moments for her social media. Of course, her manager's an asshole and a buzzkill, the type of guy that gets a taste of power, and he lets it go to his head. She gets a call from her son's daycare that seems urgent, and so she needs to go and pick him up. This guy, though, says tough shit, and if she leaves, she gets fired. So of course, she gets fired, because her kids have to come first. Once again, the layers of the onion are being peeled back. It becomes clear the happy-go-lucky persona she puts on for Roshi is just an act. She hides things from her daughter because she wants to protect her. She doesn't want her to worry, and she's somewhat ashamed of what's going on, which is understandable, hence where the social media stuff comes from. She isn't doing it to try to become some big star. She's doing it to try to find support for herself because her followers, represented by a cloud of flying love hearts that know just what to say to her, are always there to lift her up when she's feeling down, like when her son's kicked out of daycare. So instantly, from that first 2.5 minutes, the narrative that was established with Roshi's episode is shattered completely, in a very clever way. And they just keep doing it. We get to see Vanessa's perspective for that playoff game. In Roshi's version, when she gets the winning play and turns to her mum, she's not even looking at her, and she's on her phone live streaming. In this version though, yes, she's streaming because you see the love heart people surrounding her, but she doesn't turn around to simply stream herself. She's busy dealing with some loser who's calling her daughter a mediocre catcher. She's standing up for her kid. Man, what a douchebag that guy is. On top of that, from Vanessa's perspective, she turns around to see that Roshi's already won, and they make eye contact and everything. It's so different to what we see in Roshi's episode, and it does make me wonder, which one's meant to be the true telling? I feel like that's the point of it though, isn't it? It's designed to make you question things without giving you the concrete answers. If you take all of Vanessa's story at face value, it turns out she's a super mum just struggling along the way due to things out of her control. But it also invalidates Roshi's story too if you view it like that. Thus, I think you do have to meet in the middle somewhat to get the true telling of events. For this one though, I honestly don't know who would be in the wrong. The next one though, I think it shows off that Roshi perhaps sometimes sees what she expects to see and not what's actually happening. Whilst it seems like she's just chatting away to somebody to Roshi, and thus she can't go to the parents' meeting with the coach to talk about the fees, Vanessa's actually desperately trying to avoid being fired to no avail. Then she has to put on her happy mum face to try to prevent her daughter realizing that anything's wrong to begin with. Honestly, that's some really good writing. On my first watch through, I sat through this whole opening section and just blew my mind on how many wrong assumptions Pixar manipulates you into making by watching Raspberry first. I know I keep harping on about it, but it's really just, it is peak Pixar. We see how many sacrifices this woman's making and how much she keeps bottled up for the sake of her family. I mean, my god, the woman sleeps on a sofa bed in the living room. Also, we see the difference in the morning routine for her and her daughter is rather stark as well. In the Vanessa version, it seems like she's fully in control and is up and at 'em. First up, she gets ready to go. Rochelle's version though, she's up first. She's the one helping her mum get ready. She's brushing her teeth. She's reminding her to eat. And so once again, I think we probably need to call it down the middle and say the truth is likely a little bit of both. Instead of just being lazy about finding work and going off to do her own thing and have fun, it turns out that when Vanessa leaves at night, she's hustling, she's driving Uber, and during the day she's handing out resumes and getting job interviews, none of which go anywhere until she gets an offer from, I think it's some sort of call center place that has an on-site gym and a daycare and views her as a perfect fit. Also, side note, I love how they showcase the struggle of a single mum to be taken seriously in the job market, dealing with people looking down on her and also just creeps. I was surprised to see the line about how flexible she is to actually be included in this show, if I'm being honest. It was grubby, it felt icky, but it works really well. Because once again, it gives you that cold bucket of water effect. It slaps you in the face and makes you think, oh wow, she's got it hard. Once she gets the job though, everything's bright and happy again, only for her to get a call from Mr. Brown that Rochelle had been caught cheating on a test. Here we simply recap what we'd seen in the previous 2 episodes. First with Rochelle telling her mum that it was all a misunderstanding, and then with Vanessa sticking up for her daughter to Mr. Brown. This was a pretty by-the-numbers look at things, although I did find it funny the difference in how Frank behaves in his episode versus hers. Part of me thinks that a lot of the reactions we see on different characters' faces aren't necessarily reflections on what that character's feeling, but is more about what the POV character is feeling about that character or what they expect to see or hear. For instance, when Rochelle's late night studying in her episode, the tension and stress are written all over her face. When we see that same scene from Vanessa's perspective though, it doesn't feel like Roshi has a care in the world. She seems so calm. I really like that, because it encourages you to watch things back and take a deeper look into scenes to see how things are different. It's like a spot the difference picture. So cool. Then we come to the drama of the episode, where Vanessa realizes that Rochelle has been lying to her this whole time about cheating on the test. You see it start to slowly sink in the moment she leaves the conference and is confronted by the PTA parent squad, who represent all her fears and self-doubts, most of which revolve around her being a single mother and all the mistakes she's been making. They seem to simply be those intrusive thoughts of her not being good enough and doing everything wrong. Despite sticking up for herself and her daughter, one of those lingering intrusive thoughts remains, that she can feel the lies. That perhaps this whole time Vanessa's been in denial about what the truth actually is. This sinks in even more in the aftermath of the trip, where she's sitting exhausted in her car. She looks at the signed softball from the playoff game, and then the note which has been passed through the class, only to realize that yes, this is her daughter's handwriting. This in turn makes her spiral, and we get a pretty classic scene that you often see in teen dramas, where the mums discovered something that their child, generally a girl, has done, and so they angrily make them their favorite breakfast as they begin the interrogation. Kind of like a passive-aggressive last meal. Vanessa makes Mickey Mouse pancakes. Real talk for a second, but how does she shape them to look like that? We see her just pour the batter once in the pan, then they're ready to go. But how does she form the ears with only one pour? Witchcraft. Roshi seemingly doesn't notice any of this. In fact, her recollection of the scene is wildly different to what plays out in this version. It skips past Vanessa talking to her because obviously Roshi didn't find that very important, and she simply remembers her mum dancing and doing the dishes, and Roshi herself being extremely sneaky, getting ready to leave before her mum can ask any questions about where she's going. In Vanessa's version though, we see that she's the one who steals her phone, hence why Roshi doesn't have it later on, and she was actually snooping on it, not listening to music or anything. All of these differences and divergent scenes with alternate interpretations, they're making my head spin to tell you the truth. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy the style of writing immensely, but at the same time, it does get a bit much to be sitting there in every single scene, wondering whose POV is the more accurate one in any given situation. So Vanessa sends a text to Tom the doofus, who is willing to pay $100 to Rochelle to get her help on the quiz. Now yeah, this scene, you sort of have to look past it being a wee bit creepy. You know, a grown woman texting a teen to meet her under false pretenses, inviting him into her car and then locking the door. Yikes. This dude even gets in the car as well. Like, come on, son. But it does usher in a really fun scene, where Tom guides her through cyberspace as she uncovers her daughter's secrets and fake accounts, which was a pretty funny sequence to tell you the truth. Tom's probably one of the best characters in the show. I love that slow cadence of how he speaks and how bro-y he sounds, but at the same time he's very sweet and wholesome. Just a quality scene. That part where he sneaks off out of the car and tells her that he wishes she was his mum, that was very cute. Using the power of her internet followers to rapidly dox Bad Boy, the guy that Rochelle's meeting to sell the shoes to, Vanessa makes her way to the party, where she arrives and witnesses the horror of the high school experience, thinking her daughter's getting involved in all of this. I will say though, this was the most PG high school party I've ever seen. This is just, it's not how they ever go down. Probably the best part of this sequence is when she goes upstairs to try to find Rochelle after having searched everywhere else, only to find a closed door with a light on. And so she loses her shit, because everyone knows what that means, and she smashes it down, only to find that little boy that keeps cropping up. Seriously, who the hell is this kid, and why does he keep appearing? Also, I love that part where she starts mothering the girl with lactose intolerance who gets sick from the cheese from the pizza. I guess this is Pixar trying to hint at this girl being drunk, though. Like, yeah, fair enough. Showing the actual reality of a teen party is probably too much for a Pixar show. Gotta keep it more to references like this. Also, we learned that Vanessa's only 30 years old, and that today was her birthday, which adds another piece to the puzzle of the family struggle. She was a teen mum, a young mum, and there doesn't seem to be a dad in the picture. Vanessa then gets a call from Roshi, and a pair of dipshits steal her phone and play a game of keep away with it. I'll be honest, I was rooting for her to throw one of these guys through the wall. She finally gets the call, and here we get the motif that ties everything together. She Superman flies over to find her daughter who needs her. Honestly, I did not pick up on the fact that she was playing the role of a superhero this whole episode, with her superpower being to make people happy. But now looking back on it, yeah, you can see that. This whole final part was actually a wee bit emotional. The music, Roshi sitting there at the gas station all alone and forlorn, her whole world's distorted and horrific just like it was in her episode, but then her mum comes flying in to save her. And she runs and leaps across the chasm to hug her, and suddenly, the world is restored. It returns to normal. It's all okay because her mum's there. The music was beautiful and eerie, and this scene was just perfection. I'll admit, I got a little bit teary-eyed at this one. No shame in that, I reckon. And it ends with Vanessa saying that they need to talk. I really do wonder how they're going to wrap this up. Are they going to have a big final episode where we learn about everybody's conclusions, or is this just it? Do we need to draw our own conclusions about what happens next, and how these characters' lives are going to continue? I'm actually pretty excited to find out, to tell you the truth. God, I'm loving this show. My favourite piece of Pixar content in years. Not keen for it to end. But hey, we still have 4 more episodes to watch, and so with all that being said, these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of this episode? Did you like it? Hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.